It's something about a child that when you're raising them, they're young, they're full of energy, they're full of excitement. They love education, they love learning. You teach them letters, you teach them words, you teach them colors, you teach them about nature, you teach them about the birds, you teach them about the reality, different elements, the sun, the shine, the rain. You educate them about family, right? You ever notice that when a kid is young, now we're talking about young black children, when they're young, they're excited about education. They're excited to go to school to meet their friends. They're excited about the lunch that you pack for them and a superhero or supergirl lunch pail box that you give them. They're excited when you go shop for first day school clothes and the new friends that they're going to meet. And they come home and they tell you so much about how much they love their teacher and the friends that they meet at school. And as time goes by, you start to see a drastic change in your child's temperament, their behavior, their whole approach towards education begins to change. So by the time they get to be a freshman or maybe a sophomore in high school, the drive for education has completely lost. Now, many parents are unaware of this behavior. They're unaware of what's actually going on with their children. Really no fault of their own. But we also do need to be more in tune with our children. But there's a reason for that. See, it has nothing to do with them genetically not being able to learn. It has nothing to do with them genetically not wanting to be educated and know more. I don't think anybody's born or coming into this world that does not want to be intelligent, that does not want to be smart. But there's a process and there's some processing that's going on in the school situations that we're not having these conversations about. And not enough people are having these conversations because they're totally unaware because it's hiding in plain sight. Now, a lot of times teachers will cause an early division between the parent and the child early. And how they do this is mainly because the parent and the child are not on a code. The parent is not in tune with their child to give child the tools when they go to school. You need to counter and combat this and be prepared for this. Quick little story. As far as for myself, I was an intelligent student, never had failing grades. Me and my brother, we went to Christian private school. But it wasn't soon after where I began to notice that there was a vast difference in the treatment between us and the white students. Every time a black student showed elegance and excellence and was very articulate and could speak orally and could give a book report to the details or figure out equations in front of the class when it came to mathematics, the child was always shot down or there wasn't a lot of inspiration put into that child. But when a white student would stand up and do the same thing, maybe not as articulate, maybe not as clean, maybe don't even get the answer right, there was so much glory and success instilled in this child. But I began to notice that there was a double standard with the treatment and that a lot of the students who were intelligent, young black men and young black women who were intelligent, who had great confidence about themselves, who believed in themselves, who attacked education with a striking vigor, they were targeted. A lot of times they would end up in detentions. If they were critically thinking or would challenge the teacher, they were automatically sent to the principal's office. Now, this had went on for years. And just like a lot of boogeymans that we've talked about, a lot of our people in our community didn't think this exists. It's the same thing like when you go to the doctor. Before we begin to understand that big pharma was a business and that when you go see a doctor, you automatically just say, you know what, they have a moral code to give me the right medical assessment when really they're not. They're putting us on drugs. It was the same way in the school systems. So a lot of times when so many kids would go back and tell their mother and parents and their mother and father, hey, this is what I'm dealing with in school. This is what I'm going through. A lot of times our cries for help was perceived as, well, I know how you act at home, so you probably act the same way at school. So to wrap this up, to make this story real short so I could bring on some phenomenal guests, I was in grammar class one day, grammar literature. All right. I was told to do the book Moby Dick. This was my assignment. I did not read Moby Dick. And on the day I was called to give my oral book report, I stood in front of the podium and the teacher, she was a white female, asked me, what did you learn about Moby Dick? I told her absolutely nothing because I didn't read the book. Now the class laughed. I stood there with a serious face. She said, well, Moby Dick is an American classic. I then told her, I said, I think you're wrong. I don't know nobody in my family. I've never heard of any black people talk about a whale that somebody's trying to catch. Most of the black people I know can't even swim. So I don't know why they would even go in the ocean searching for a whale. Once again, the class began to laugh hysterically. Now, they thought I was being funny, but I was very serious. Then I began to challenge this teacher in front of the class because we had a falling out. And I told her, every day I walk in this classroom, you don't speak to us. You don't acknowledge us. You got an assignment on the board, and that's for us to complete. You don't give us any help. You don't answer our questions. You act like you irate. You're always putting on makeup. She sent me to the principal's office. Now, sometimes things that look like they're really bad is really a blessing in disguise. My high school principal was near and dear to my family, for he had been the principal for my aunts and my uncles who also attended this same high school. I explained to him what had been going on, and I really kind of gave a whole graphic detail of what I had been going through the last couple of years of my public education. So he took a further notice into it and found out that there actually was something going on with this particular teacher who really didn't, and she was eventually let go of this position. So while that day I stood on my ground, most of the students who told me not to say anything, we cool, we don't have to do no assignments, it's a kickback period. I moved up to, at that time, it was called academics. I think they give it a different name, but I moved up to academics. So by me moving up to academics and excelling as I should have, my father began to get involved. I was in my 11th year going into my senior year of high school. And when my father found out what was really going on in the school systems, he got involved in an afternoon program for the troubled, quote unquote, at-risk youth called Inroads at Normandy Senior High School, my alma mater. And that's when my dad said, you know what, I got to go back to school and I have to get ready to get an education to help the students out. Today, I have Brother Jerry L. Green, who is with the Black Student Advocate, who empowers Black families and Black teachers for everything that I just named going on in the school systems and beyond, who's going to give us a lot of tips and information how we can attack this. Also, I have a young lady on the show today by Mrs. La, who is a home educator. She's a tutor, and she's the creator of Word Harts Tutoring Academy. We're going to get into it next. Let's go.
Equality versus equity. Equality means every child gets a pair of shoes. Equity means every child gets a pair of shoes that fit. That means every school district has to meet every student's individual needs.
I'm Jerry L. Green with the Black Student Advocate. We advocate for Black employees and Black students within the K-12 school districts. We hold school districts accountable to make sure that Black students and employees are in a fair and equitable workplace.
So bringing it back, that was Brother Jerry L. Green, who I'm about to bring on. This brother, I met him not too long ago on the Fanbase app, which is actually created and owned by Brother Isaac Hayes III, who is the son of the legendary singer Isaac Hayes. I met this brother in a group, and he went straight to the topic of education, which he automatically caught my attention. And in this group, there was some people that wasn't being that serious, but when the brother said, are we going to be serious about our kids, or are we going to joke? The brother, I instantly became a supporter, and I wanted to know more. So without keeping him further ado, man, let me go ahead and bring this brother on, Brother Jerry Green. How you doing today, brother?
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm glad to have you on, man. So, man, tell me a little bit about what you do and what got you started into what you do now as far as the Black Student Advocate.
So I'm going to back up and start with me being in kindergarten. So in kindergarten, they wanted to hold me back. And it wasn't because I couldn't read, because we were getting the highlights and things like that. So my mom said, no, don't hold him back, push him to first grade. So they pushed me to first grade, then they held me back from first grade. But they didn't want to hold me back because of academics. They wanted to hold me back because I wouldn't sit down. So I wasn't mature enough to listen to the teacher to sit down, but really I was already more advanced than what they were trying to teach. And we see that in a lot of our students. So with that, that's how we stand in the gap for Black students. And also we cover Black employees also who are standing in the gap for Black students on site.
That's interesting. So you've actually been a Black Student Advocate. Now, how long have you actually been on your initiative and your driving your campaign?
Almost 6 years. So we started April 2017.
April 16th.
So and what happened with that is a young brother in California was called a slave, a fourth grader, by his teacher, and it made the local news. And so, where I was staying then was like 60 miles outside of LA. And so the night, about 4 o'clock in the morning, I started getting inboxes. Jerry, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Jerry, we got to do something. And because I was publishing a Black Business Directory and doing Black Business Expos in Southern California, people knew me in the community. And so I said, okay, we need to do something. So called a community meeting. I met with the superintendent and also at the school board meeting. I said all 3 individuals need to be removed, which was the teacher, Hispanic guy, a contract Black assistant principal, and a white principal. And so when that happened, more parents started calling me. And so over a 3-week time frame, I helped anywhere from 4 to 6 families just going to meetings and advocating and standing in the gap. So then I did just Google Black Student Advocate, and nothing came up. And I said, okay, I'll be the Black Student Advocate. And that was the start of the work we do today.
Appreciate you, and thank you for coming on the show today. We're looking for some great information for you to offer to the people that will be chiming in today and those who will see the show later on. Our next guest is a young lady I also met, like in the same social media platform, and she's a very serious soul. She's a very serious energy, but she's a homeschooler, which anybody that is a homeschooler is always a friend of mine. And I got to know her story a little bit, and an education advocate, and it was really intriguing to me. So I added her to the show today for everything that she can bring to us valuable, because there are a lot of people that's always coming and talking to me and asking me about homeschooling and do you know anybody that homeschool, and I really don't have a lot of information on that, but I'm going to bring her on right now. She can give us all the information that we need to understand about homeschooling, some of the challenges, the pros and the cons, and what you could do to set your child up for homeschooling as well. Miss La, how you doing today?
Hey, how's it going, Jihad? How are you?
Everything is good. I'm so glad to have you on today, man. What's the weather looking like up there in New York?
It's really cold, but it's beautiful. It's sunny. The skies are clear. We have snorkels and scullies and scarves, but we're making it. We're here.
So when we were talking the other day when we were in the group, you mentioned something about when we had the open discussion to kind of get people warmed up for the show today. You mentioned something about getting into homeschooling. What was like the wake up moment for you when you first got into homeschooling? What was it for you that really got you going to that?
Initially, my son had what they would call echolalious speech or repetitive speech. So I had to get him evaluated. Well, I did it at the behest of someone's suggestion, like, don't rule this out. Go make sure, he's okay. If he doesn't start, evening out his speech by 3, we might need to be looking at other things. And I did that. And the process, I had to go to the school district. They sent me to CPSC. That's early prevention. And they did a battery of tests. So he was seen by a school psychologist, occupational therapist, a physical therapist, a cognitive therapist, and a speech therapist. And they had this report, thick report like that thick. And I read every bit of it. And in the report, it read that my son had Pampers on and he could not tell when he'd soiled himself. That was a direct quote. And I'm looking at this report like, what? And so I'm flipping through the pages, and she's the person who took did the report indicated that my son was gazing out of the window, like unattentive to the lesson, as if he was, slow or there was something wrong and he couldn't, adjust to the class. And so I went through the motion. I took it up the ladder to the director. I was able to rectify the situation with them, correcting the paperwork in their files, providing the speech therapy that he needed. And this was an early learn program that he was in. So this wasn't public school yet. This is just pre-K and early learn. What I realized is that at that moment, they were trying to label my son clearly. And I couldn't take it. I had to do something about it. I spoke to his father. We got him the speech therapy. And then when the following fall came around, 2017, I just homeschooled him. I went to the district.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
I went online. I looked up, everything that I needed to know about getting started with homeschool for New York. Is really simple. You do a letter of intent. You do a IHIB as individualized homeschool plan. And you do your quarterly reports. So November, February, April, and June, I do a quarterly report for 7. And I've been doing everything.
I'm sorry. So since you've been homeschooling your son, has he shown any of these signs that he was diagnosed with?
No.
So, okay. And are there any other kids that you homeschool besides your son?
No, but I do tutor.
You do tutor. So many of the kids that you inherit when you tutor, are many of these parents told that they have the same conditions, maybe similar to your son or other conditions that's preventing them from learning in the classroom? Have they been told this as well too?
Yes, ADHD. Um, you know, one of them said that he may be like a mentally retarded.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, you know, drastic it is. The boy can read, he can
Mm-hmm.
write, he can comprehend. He just needs the environment to do so. And that's part of
Right.
the issue with some of these kids. They can't learn in the same environment. All kids don't learn the same.
Right. So, Jerry, with that being said, hearing what Lias explained to you, us all about her son's situation, what does a parent do when the school system tells them and they give their child an evaluation that they simply either don't see or that they don't agree with? How does a parent combat that legally? Do they have rights? How does that work when the school system is just adamant about a child's condition that may not be true or just thoroughly misdiagnosed? How do they do that?
So parents have to then go to their community and look for organizations in the area who specialize in IEP 504s and things like that to then say, this is what this school district is doing. Because many times, just like our organization, we have the tail of the tape. So when a parent calls me many times, especially in Southern California, I've already dealt with the district. So now I know exactly the temperament and the systemic problems within the district. And something else she said that was important, and it goes back to my video, is that if a student is learning different, it's the teachers and the school district's job to meet the student where they are. Not so the teacher has to come down to the student, not the student has to come up to the teacher. And that's by law. And that's what the difference between equity and equality. Equality says every kid gets a pair of shoes. Equity says every kid gets a pair of shoes that fit, which means is the district have to meet each individual student's needs.
That's absolutely amazing. So for parents that may be watching this show, do you suggest that they really brief themselves with the state laws and any type of student advocate to help defend them against something about being misdiagnosed with their child?
For sure. And also with that, they need to also start looking for local therapists who specialize in behaviors that might affect their student. Because you want to have a Rolodex of people, you need your team to come off the bench as needed because you are the captain of the team. You're the number one advocate for your student, and you also are the quarterback for the offense. You're not on defense, you're on offense. So you're going to call the plays. So when you go into an IEP or 504, the district is looking out for their best interest, not necessarily your student. So they already have many things already typed up and ready to go, and they're going to give you all these terms and everything within a 30 to an hour and a half meeting. So then at the end of the meeting, they're going to want you to sign the document. Parents, take the document. So like if you get the document, say yesterday on a Friday, then you take the document home. You don't sign that day. You set it up for 3 days. You look back at that document on Tuesday with fresh eyes. You don't try to sign that day because it's not in your best interest. How can they know the plan and put things in there you want that's going to benefit your student? They're just looking out for their best interest. Also, some things they do in IEP and 504s. What they'll do is the meeting starts. So when they come out, they'll say, Miss Lon, we're setting up for you and we'll be ready for you in a minute. So go ahead and have a seat. So you sit down and then you go in a meeting and they might have 5 to 10 people sitting across from you. That's for them to posture to intimidate you like they're the expert. So
Absolutely.
then, so then they're going to do that, have you sit down, and then they're going to start the meeting and start going through the meeting. And when about 20 minutes to a half hour, they're going to say, John, don't you have a meeting in about 20 minutes? And you're going to say yes. So now they're going to start moving faster through the IEP to try to accommodate the staff member, not the parent. And anytime that happens, I'll say, okay, we need to table this meeting till everyone have the appropriate time. I thought
Yeah.
you blocked out 2 hours for this meeting, but now you
Right.
have to go somewhere else. that's not fair to this parent or this student, so we'll reschedule this. Something else that needs to go on is that they should give you the document minimum 72 hours before the meeting so you can look at it and know going in what's in it. But districts, again, they play so many games, and then because there is the education industrial complex, which means they're making so much money off our students. Why do they have to put out a good product, meaning teaching our students?
Wow.
Jerry made good points. Jerry made very good points.
India Archie asked a question. Should you allow your children to be examined by their people?
Hi, India.
And I'm assuming she's meaning the school district.
Yes, I would say yes. Because the thing is have their people do it, but then have your own people do it. That's why I say you got to have a Rolodex for people you can call. And then also when you get their report, now you have a reference point to take to your doctor. So when your doctor start looking through their report and talking to your student, and could be checked off like, no, that's not true. No, I don't see that. No, I don't see that. And also with that, you can use that document as they talk to you and say, Miss La, have your student ever done this? Is your student doing that? What do your students say when they go to class? Oh, well, Becky never lets me speak. Anytime I get up and raise my hand, she never calls on me to answer the question. So it opens up more information. But you use their document as a benchmark to build from.
That's absolutely. So with everything that's being discussed by Jerry, which I believe is going to be eye-opening information for a lot of people. I see a mass exodus in the school systems with our people. For one, are you prepared to take on more students, maybe 10 to 12 students a day? And number two, if you when it comes to homeschooling, what is the process that you do to help socialize the children if they're not in a regular school environment?
Good questions. Yes, I'm up for the task. I'm very much so up for the task because it's necessary. We need it. As far as my son, we're always moving around. So we'll do a lesson, and then for his like math lesson or whatever the case may be, we'll actually money when you money math. We actually go to the store. He's in his community. The store owner seen my son grow up. So when he comes in there, he's socializing with them. They have their children in the store. He's able to communicate with not just, children of his peers, but his community at large. And when he goes to the park or when we go to the museum and when he's at soccer practice, he's communicating with his friends and his peers at that time. So he's very much so active in the community, but he's also just in fun and play. He's around kids.
And is homeschooling something that you're going to settle in and make it not so much a career, but pretty much a call to action as far as something that you feel driven to do for our youth?
Yes. And it's ironic because really quickly, I went to college for human services and public administration. And right at COVID, I got such a massive amount of calls, and they needed me to help them just bear with the children. And they knew that I was already engaged in homeschooling and home instruction and tutoring. And so I just kind of like fell into it. So I think this is more of my passion now. So yeah, I'm ready to do it for life.
Man, I really appreciate you, and I consider you to be a community savior. And I really see a mass exodus because.
Can I piggyback on that?
Go right ahead, Jerry. It's your show.
Sure, Jerry.
I think the first thing she was talking about is the passion and love. And if you have a baseline of that when you helping our students, they're going to excel.
Yeah.
When our kids go into that environment, they know many times there's no love. And when you have a teacher who's really showing the love, then other teachers is going to shine against that.
Right.
So with her having the passion and saying, because she cares, now she's going to be able to really help students because they know it's genuine and it's from the heart. And she's going to help them when she take them just out in the community, just understanding how to navigate the community and make it a teachable moment. That's what our kids really learn, is really many times when it's interactive. You just
Right.
can't talk to our kids or speak at our kids and expect us to get it. Many times that's not how we do it.
Right.
Right. I'm often animated during tutoring sessions. Very
Mm.
animated, very vivacious. I have to be that because first of all, children's attention span is very short. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to get in, make an impact, and get out, and then feed them little bits and pieces. Even when I see my kids in the neighborhood, I quiz them right there on the spot. Hey, what's 5 times 5? Let me hear the number. You know what I mean? I do it to my son all the time. It's doable. I just love doing it. The way children look when they get an answer right, and then the praise that they get, it boosts
Mm-hmm.
this confidence in them, and it's like a bright diamonds in their eyes are so bright when you see it. It's infectious, and you want more of that. I need more of that because also these children are going to be running this country, and I
Exactly.
need to be able to put the marker, put their feet in the concrete. Like, this is what you can do. This is what you will do. This is what you will achieve. There's no such thing as can't in my classroom.
Man, that's a great breakdown. And Jerry,
So,
you hitting
so,
on
so,
something
so
that I want
Ja,
to.
so,
Yes,
so
sir.
Ja, real fast. What did she just say? She just said she has a community school.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime she see the kid, they know they have to be on point,
Yep.
Exactly.
because school is not just the building; it's everything that's around us. So, La, great work. I just want to commend
Thank
you on that.
you. Thank you,
Yes, yeah,
Jerry.
lie you
Thank
on
you.
point, real talk.
Thank you,
And Jerry,
guys.
you're going into the part of the conversation that's about to get real thick because you hit on something in the group yesterday that I never thought nothing about, and it kind of blew my mind when you mentioned it because it made sense. First of all, this is going to be a two-part. Is the lack of black male teachers by design in the school systems? Strictly going now, we're going back into the school system. For those who are not getting homeschool, is that by design?
It's not by design, but they're pushing black teacher, male teachers out. So I'm not
Elaborate on
going to
that.
say it's by design. Well, let me. Well, you know something? Let me change that. Yes, it is, because 80 to 85% of teachers are white women. So that is by design. So I'll change that stance and understand when a black male does come into the system and is advocating and communicating on the kids level, meaning that, come here, boy, come here, brother, come here, young man, and cutting to them like that. That's what they need, because he know the path that they're up against and the road they got to travel. So with that, if you're not cultured within that environment, you don't understand, and you think he's abusing the kid, but really that's him loving on the kid, because a kid can see him as their uncle, as their granddad, as their dad, as their first cousin. So yes, we need black male teachers within the school system.
Another thing that you talked about yesterday, and this is where I want to get to the thick of things. Let's talk about the educators suffering in silence. And Live, if you know a little bit about this, you could chime in as well too. So, and I think Beautiful was in the room yesterday, and she talked about her son being a teacher who really cared about the kids, truly advocate for the education, and kind of talk like the example you just gave, like, come here, dude, like, come here, my guy, you know what I'm saying? Or, they speak the kids' language, yo, that's cap. They can relate to that. But I think she was explaining that one of the white teachers had witnessed his behavior, his interaction with the kids. She found it to be threatening and somewhat disrespectful. And he tried to explain, like, no, this is just how we get down. This is what we do. This is cultural. This is how I relate to the kids. And I believe he became targeted. You begin to
Correct.
hit on something about a lot of educators suffering in silence, because now it's like those who really care about the children, those who want to pour into the children, now they're a target because now they're kind of working against what the machine really wants for the students. Can you elaborate and talk about that just a little bit more?
Sure. So we have over 150 PSAs, and that's PSA number 6. And what it is the educational yellow line. So long as a teacher is shortchanging the student and not giving the student all the services that they need, lying on reports, supporting the district, and not letting the system be affected, they're okay. But once they truly advocate for a student and try to get the student all the services or give them opportunity to other programs, then they're a target and labeled not a team player. They're a liability. So what happens is that employees, people go into education thinking I want to make a change because many times a teacher have made a change in their life. But what happens is when they start advocating, then they now are a target. And because they have student loans, mortgage, house, car, and like to eat, simple things like that, now they're targeted. So now they got to go to work and suffer in silence because they got all this debt that they're trying to manage. And this job is the one who's covering all that debt. So now they go to work and suffer in silence. And I know at least 15 administrators and teachers right now currently working within the K through 12 school district that are in therapy because they continue to go into that environment. And what that comes down is to both our Black students and the Black administrators or people who try to advocate for Black students is PTSD, perpetual traumatic stress disorder, because it's always something that they're putting in front of that person to continue to stress them out. And that's the thing that we have to look out for with our students, because think about this. Any arena in the world where Black folks have known the rules and known the boundaries, we've been able to excel. But when we go into school districts, they put all these other barriers and landmines in front of our kids to navigate. So now they're thinking about all that and they can't concentrate on a lesson. So it looks as if our kids are less than. But other kids don't have to navigate the system that our Black students do.
That's a very, very intriguing point.
Great
so
point.
With that being said, do we really need to begin to focus our efforts on making the exodus from the public school systems and pretty much building and funding our own, which is pretty much homeschooling?
I wouldn't say homeschooling. It would be more it would be alternative or home instruction or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a home setting, because there are actual home instruction sites where there are other parents who decided to homeschool their children but can't do it themselves, and they have this approved curriculum that they agree with, that someone, a professional, a teacher or a student advocate or something like that, but someone who is qualified, because I'm not a teacher, but I have college credits enough, whereas I could, tutor and even be a professor if I wanted to. So I would say yes, because it is like Jerry's organization, like the prevention and stopping from preschool to prison. That's their goal. That is the goal. And I think it would be adverse to go in and try to reinvent their wheel. We need to just make our own wheel.
And Jerry, you was finna speak on something? You was finna say something?
Yeah. So the problem is to mirror their will is no different than when we see people pop up and start Black chambers in communities.
Yeah.
The first fee is the building. And so any money you get in first has to be take care of the lease. So now with that chops off the personnel you're going to be able to afford. So you can't mirror their system and thinking many times you're going to do better, because their system's not working. You can use it as a benchmark and pull pieces out. And again, I support people homeschooling their students because they have the best interests of the students.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got a question that came up once again by Mrs. Archie. She says, does the school connect you with or have utilize parent advocates? Which was a question she asked me earlier today. I guess Jerry, alive, one of y'all can take that question. Jerry, you can take that question?
Sure. No, I'm not the school district's friend because I hold them accountable.
Okay.
So let me just keep it 100. School districts want people who want to come in, get a contract, and go along to get along, i.e., many times our national organizations.
Yeah.
I don't take contracts from school districts. I have a fiduciary obligation to Black employees and Black students. So I'm never going to be an employee of a district because that's the game. is people in our community many times say they're an advocate until they get a check.
Mm.
Now they go along to get along.
Mm-hmm. Money
Yeah,
does change things.
it really does. So Jerry, I know you have a set regime and you're very detailed and structured, man. So one thing I want to get into that you talk about in your initiatives are the 6 initiatives. Do you care to get into that?
Sure. So no, I was going to say, if you give me one, then I'd break it down. Give me one because I don't have them in front of me.
Okay. Well, I don't have them in front of me too. So,
Okay.
I know one of them that I did read in the email was the yellow line.
Yeah. That was the education yellow line we talked about. So hang on one second. I don't have a hand and I don't want to go off camera.
I can get it.
Okay, but one of them I'll talk to one about is the stopping the pregnancy to prison pipeline. And what that's about is we have to teach young brothers and sisters about nutrition and how valuable and how important it is for the young sister when she get pregnant to take care of herself. Because anything that goes sideways into pregnancy can affect that student the rest of their life. And that's the thing. And so we need to make sure that she's healthy, that the baby's healthy, and it's in a healthy environment so the baby can come out with the best opportunities to succeed.
That's a different type of initiative right there.
They're very different.
While I research this right quick, you got any initiatives that you use with homeschooling?
One of the initiatives that I use is more geared on behavior. So self-regulation. I tend to focus more on with the children how to get themselves to calm down, how to get themselves to stay focused, how to say, check themselves like, hey, you know that you need to do this. Let's just focus up. Talk to yourself. Take a few breaths, breathe deeply, and recenter yourself. So that's one of my initiatives.
Have you actually had to deal with a student that actually really did have ADHD or was kind of hyper or couldn't sit still? Did you ever actually have to deal with a student like that?
Yeah.
And how did you handle that situation?
I was just talking to them, allowing them a space.
Okay.
I was taught that children are just little versions of us. They're little people. They have feelings. They have emotions. They have their own thoughts. They're entitled to their thoughts, right? So I would ask certain questions to get them to tell me how they felt about something. And 9 times out of 10, it would be a smooth transition. Maybe he had a bad day or whatever the case may be, but he failed his spelling test. And when I tutored him for the week, he took it the following Friday and he got 100. Like, it's you have to meet the children where they are, as he said.
And which is what the school district's not willing to do. Yeah,
you cannot just go with this blanketed, agenda because it's not going to work for all children. And right. while he does have ADHD, he's not unteachable. He's not it's like as if he can't be instructed to do certain things. So yeah, he was good to go.
I'm gonna speak on that, and then I got him pulled up. I got him also, but I'm gonna speak on what she just said.
Okay.
Before we let these school districts and anyone label our kids with ADHD and ADD and everything else, we need to check the kids' diet. Because if we giving them sugar and everything first thing in the morning, they hyped up. And they're coming to class, they're hyped up, and they don't want to sit down. Yeah. But then they go outside, and I've been a fitness instructor over 40 years. Now they go outside, they run around or doing something inside the class if it's cold, moving their legs, moving their thighs, which is their large muscle group. Now their blood sugar drops. Now they're lethargic, and they come back after break. They want to lay down because now their blood sugar is dropping, and they want to put their head down. And teachers say, no, it's time to learn. Then we give them the USDA lunch, then spike them back up. So we got this kid on a yo-yo, and the kid is just doing the best he can because he don't know what's going on. But many times it's our fault that lead them down that direction.
I sure couldn't stay awake in class. I was crashing.
I was
You
like,
just now it all makes sense. I'm like, they was like, dude, they like, Red, wake up. I
don't
was
let it
like,
be a movie
yeah,
day.
I had Kool-Aid this morning for breakfast.
When they used to bring in a projector and we had movie day or a film that we had to watch, I'm like this. I'm serious.
Yeah, me too. Now that made a lot of sense because like, now I just been diagnosed.
He's
Appreciate that,
brilliant,
doc.
this guy. Jerry's brilliant.
Very brilliant. Well, I was wondering why I was crying. I'm like,
Shout out
why I
to you,
can't stay awake?
Exactly.
2:45, I'm awake because that's what school's about to get out though.
Right,
So it
right.
was definitely
Daddy gotta
mental, it was
boost the energy.
psychological.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what I would just tell parents if they're watching is when their kids and they see their kids getting lethargic and things, and lethargic means drowsy, laying down, and everything. When they
Mhm.
start seeing their kid feel that way, also ask the kid, "Are you queasy at the stomach? And are you getting any kind of headache or anything like that?" That's what that is. Is that's your fuel light saying, "I need more sugar." That's
Mm.
your like in your car. That's your fuel light coming on, saying my blood sugar's low. And again, let me say this right here. That's why if people are working out and when they start throwing up, that's not a good thing. That's your body then finna go into shock and everything. So that's not a good
Mm.
thing. When you work out till you throw up, that's not a good thing.
I just learned something new. I see guys in the
Yeah,
gym throwing out. I'm like, boy, that boy really put in work. He about to go. I ain't realize that. That's a good
yeah,
bit of information right there.
yeah. So
Your body's
so
telling you something.
the body's going to give you an alarm. Pain is an alarm and everything. If we pay attention, then we'll realize that a body, like say, is telling us something. We just got to be in tune.
India Archie says, I no longer have children, school age children, but I want to be a part of the solution of helping our children in school, life, and their parents. How can I help? And that is a question that she asked me earlier before we went on. And she is a parenting coach. So I guess I let both of y'all take a shot at that answer, at that question, excuse me.
Jerry.
Uh, okay. So how you can get
Let
involved is with your
you.
parents. Is tell your parents, and again, you can train the trainer. Tell the parents they should be on site minimum 12 times a year. And because of security issues, they can just sit up front in the lobby and just read a book, be on fan base, on any kind of social media or audible, whatever they're going to do. But long as kids know they're going to be there, then that's going to change the environment and give the kids the confidence to know they
Mm,
have someone they can go to if there's a problem. And now
mm,
also you tell that parent to create a cluster of other parents to do it. So now then they make out a schedule. So now you can cover most of the school year with someone being on site. That would change the environment because now teachers know that someone is
I,
there for these kids.
yeah, changes up
he
the
made a
culture as
good
well.
point.
Yeah.
Very good
I
point.
would just add, as far as homeschool or teaching and tutoring and getting the child to a higher level of learning, um, just take time. It takes about 15-20 minutes to study with them, get into a routine, do it on a Saturday, take them outside, do home Google science experiments. You'd be surprised how many things you can do with some of the stuff that you have in your house. Building a
Mm,
volcano, making rain clouds, um, doing 3D shapes with toothpicks and marshmallows, right?
yeah,
Um, it's all about repetition and making it fun. Make it
yeah.
fun for them. Ask them what would they learn? What do they want to do? How do they want to do this project? What do you see the project as? Just get into the habit of having communication with the student, because sometimes we talk at the kids and we need to talk with them.
That's a very interesting thing you bring up because I know with my youngest child, and her mother really does a great job with this. Like my daughter loves reading. She loves Legos. She loves planting, learning how to plant things, nature type stuff, science. I can't say I was like that as a kid, but we really try to focus our efforts on making this likable and not making it something that is like a task like school. And another thing that I do because of my history, of what I've been through in the school system, I kind of I tell my daughter certain realities that she has to look out for at 6 when she goes to school. I went to school night one time and we had movie night. And this movie had a peculiar character in it that I had to explain to my daughter that was not a man. It was not, she was confused, so I had to break that down. The thing that worries me most, because I don't know, I'm not really in a homeschooling situation right now. I'm not really set up where we can get her like that or anywhere that we could trust, especially in the living area where her mother is that what's being taught to my child when I'm not actually there in the classroom, the type of trigger words that they use, the things that they present to these kids in books. You understand? So when I saw that cartoon on a Friday night, which, you go after school and it's a gym full of kids and parents, I don't think anybody caught that this character that they was putting in this movie was a transgender. Right there in the cartoon. But to the kids, it looks like a regular, innocent character. And right then and there is why I had to tell my daughter, let me explain to you what's going on with this. So at the same time, I think the school systems, I don't know if Jerry used this expression or somebody else, it most definitely is a mental killing ground for black children as far as their cultures, their values, what they're going to value, the things that they should be interested in, and their principles. And they kind of counter and combat what the parent is teaching them at home. My daddy used to always say the one that rocks the cradle rules the world, which is, you look around society and a lot of government, the power has been taken out of the parent's hands to parent the child. You understand what I'm saying? So what I began to do as a father, because I knew what it looks like and I understood it, I got on a code with all of my children. And I told them, this is what's going to happen when you go to school. This is what this really means. I don't need you to really go to the teacher and you don't have to tell them, hey, my daddy told me this. I just want you to stay on code, know what's real. They just really want you to get the grade, but understand this is not real. This is not factual. But and that's why they call it school, because they want everybody to think alike. So most students who have the natural lack and ability to be critical, like the teachers, they are the one that's targeted and seen as a problem and seen as an attitude. Jerry, I'm gonna let you get into your 6 initiatives.
Okay, so I'm gonna speak on that, then I'll go to 6.
Yes, sir.
Because the thing is this: because who was funding? So in 2nd grade, kids start seeing pennants for Harvard, UCLA, Michigan. So they start seeing that then. But who is funding these college and universities? Entrepreneurs of corporate America. So when your kids start thinking outside the box, they start thinking about being an entrepreneur in which they can come challenge corporate America. That's why they teach them the same. So you grow through the system to think about getting a job, not being independent.
Wow. That's a great point. I never thought about it.
Yeah, so that's what the whole thing is saying, okay, hey, you can show up on time, you can go to lunch on time, you can come back here on time. Okay, we trained you for a job at the minimum.
That's striking.
I saw real quick. I saw a Instagram post of a little girl walking with probably a teacher or principal, and she said that my daddy said schools is like jail. He was like, well, not so quite. She was like, well, can I leave when I want? It's like, no. Can I do what I want? He was like, no. I was like, this is pretty much jail. It is.
Yes.
Can I eat what I want? Like whatever's there, I have to eat that. And unless your parent brought you some food or whatever, packed you a lunch. But she made a good point.
That's a real good point, especially if that kid is thinking like that early. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of kids, they really don't see it's good that a kid like that sees the bigger picture, because a lot of our black students do not see the bigger picture. I'm gonna give one example, Jerry, right before you get into the 6. My son went to a well-known program school down here in Georgia. It's nationally known for football, sports, and they're actually, quote unquote, one of the better academic schools, so they say. But anyway, going into their senior season, they had just one state. All these guys were getting their offers, getting ready to go to college. Him and one of his close friends and another guy were clowning around in the hallway. He had a pair of scissors. I don't know why, don't ask me, but basically he pretty much stabbed the kid by accident, had to go to the hospital to get stitches. What they did not understand at that time, because when the parents found out about it, got involved, they like, hey, these are our boys. This is how they played. That was a mere accident mistake. We don't want to press charges. They went to the resource officer of that school, who was a white female. And you know what she did? Instead of just saying, okay, it's no big deal, let's just get you to the hospital, let's contact your mom and dad, they called the police. So you looking at a kid that's looking at possibly going D1 for football within a matter of 3 months, enrolling in school, because it was like in April, close to graduation. possibly getting ready to go to D1. When they called the police on this kid, he actually got a charge put on him. Then he had to end up going to the alternative school. He was no longer in the regular school.
Wow.
Now, I can only imagine what that did for his psyche. So now, with that being said, had that kid understood his reality amongst Europeans who do not value them, do not value their education, and it ain't always just white folks. It's a lot of black ones too. He would have made a different decision not to even go that route, but because they have this comfortable, unaware, relaxed, trustworthy feelings towards people who may not look at them, just because they were highly confused because they cheering for you on Friday night, but that ain't their true heart intentions and how they truly feel about you. I truly believe had he never contacted that resource officer, his reality going out of high school would have been totally different. Yeah. It bothered me. It may have bothered his parents. I know it definitely bothered him, and I know he definitely went into a deep depression because I saw my youngest brother go through a deep depression coming out of school, who was a highly touted athlete. Now, I'm not trying to put this on sports, but what I am trying to get people to understand, and for those who are watching, it is critical that you understand that your children understand the reality of these public schools, especially when they're dealing with teachers who do not look like them and don't value them. That one simple mistake he went to school, but he didn't go to the school that he could have, but that caused him major opportunity of enjoying his college football career more than what he had to go through. And when you pretty much go to the lower ranks, I don't like to call them like you go JUCO or NAII. It's not like D1. It's not even like D2. So that affected that kid. And that's another thing a lot of us don't talk about is the mental trauma that these school systems put on these kids, even when they graduate from high school, that they carry on with them. Jerry, it's on you.
Okay. So the 6 initiatives: reduce or deter bullying. That's by telling parents their rights, and also if something happens. Something else you said that's critical that we don't do, but other individuals do. If your kid is being bullied, go to the police station and put in a report. By doing that, now you have an outside agency that knows what's going on. So if it doesn't get any better once you notify the district, then you have documentation in case you move forward. You want to take them to court for litigation. Yeah. Item number 2, educate parents on their basic rights. Parents, at the beginning of the school year, you and your student should read the student handbook. So when they call you, then you can ask the following questions. Where is it at in the student handbook? Can you show me? Where is it at on the district website? Can you show me? Where is it at in education code? Can you show me? And what education code is when you get stopped by the police and they give you a ticket, then they use a penal code. Education code is what governs school districts. And if your student is going to get kicked out, expelled, or punished in any kind of way, they have to use the education code. Number 3, increase parent involvement. Like I said, have parents be on site 12 times a year. When you start doing that, your student is going to get more opportunities, and your student is not going to be bullied by staff because they know you're involved and you're there. Stop the pregnancy to prison pipeline. I talked about that already. Increase financial literacy. So with the work we do, once we have the parents' trust because we already advocated for them, we also are a licensed insurance agent. So now we get to ask the parent and help them with their financial services needs to make sure they're taken care of in case something unplanned happens. And then finally, improve perception and knowledge of self. As we talk about how the school system works, we want to empower the student so then they can walk in and understand who they are, how they represent their family, and then also empower the parents at the same time.
That's absolutely amazing, and that's something I'm gonna have to tag it a little bit later and put them all out there so people can actually visually can see it. But the one thing that I've always wondered with everything that's going on in the school systems, we all know what the end game is. What do you see coming down the pipe as far as the future of American education? Because change is always coming, evolution is always coming. Just like, you had tests, and I know down here in Georgia, we got this thing called Common Core that confused even the smartest kid. So what can you see coming down the pipe as far as education in this country? I'm going to let both of you all take that question apiece.
You want to go first?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. A lot of parents are going to look for alternative ways to educate their children, and not just for their education, but for their safety. Oftentimes, we don't really hear about the detrimental things that goes on in these schools unless it's a shooting or something like that. But there's a lot of things that goes on behind these school walls. I think that the way that schools are going to be funded is going to be a little bit different as well. True, because of the fact that parents are just not going to go with the okey doke. We are waking up, we are more aware, and there's just different ways to educate your child that are popular. And a lot of the homeschool aspect of education was not so popular, and I think it amongst our community as a whole, and I think that it's more popular now, so people are
I
going to
agree.
start gravitating towards that more, or
I
just
agree.
alternative education as a whole. Yeah.
The great Amos Wilson always talked about how many black people talk about an African centered education. And Amos Wilson had to always tell people African centered education ain't just about teaching kids about the history of Africa, who put the first tomb on the pyramid, about Hebrew set. He said that African centered education is teaching our children how to solve problems. Jerry, it's on you.
But you know something? African centered education, like Black History Month and like Black History Facts and history, should be taught and infused into education daily. It's
Every
not
day.
just a one off or anything like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
What we're
Yeah.
going to see in education in the next 5 to 7 years is going to be the biggest transformation we ever seen in education. Because now a failing student or a student living in a failing community in Southern California now is going to be able to attend a academically recognized school in New York because of online courses. And now that's going to change the whole formula, which means now the school district is going to have to step their game up to now really be engaged with the parent to keep their kids in the school. Now it's compulsory. You force to send your kids to school. But this is going to change the whole game. And Lala said something that we hear about the shootings, but we don't hear about when they close the doors and they killing our kids' minds and enthusiasm every day.
Yes.
What
Yes.
COVID did was expose these school district teachers as to how they truly treat our students, because you would never hear, because many times you would have to give a teacher 24-hour notice if you want to come sit in her class or his class. Now, because of COVID, they would just talk crazy to your kid, and you like, hold up, little Jerry, you were right. I didn't think the teacher would talk to you like that, but it exposed that game. So think about this. Prior to COVID, people who went to University of Phoenix was looked down on. Parents who homeschool was looked down on somewhat. Then with COVID happening, the guy who started University of Phoenix looked like a genius, and everybody was calling parents like Lie and everyone else who had been homeschooling, saying, "How do you do that?" So it changed the whole perception of what people see and how they think education can work. And that's the best thing that can happen for our community in education.
And it's funny, Jerry, because when I started, or when I made the decision and I spoke to a couple of people like, hey, look, I'm not sending him to public school. I'm going to just try this homeschool thing out or whatever the case may be. They were like, what? White people do that. What are you doing? And just giving me flack. And some of the same ones that were giving me flack were calling me about how to get little Ron to sit down and little Sally to sit down. You understand? And I did it without a second thought. Here's what you do. Here's what you can start doing. Here's what you can look up. Most of the things is we have smartphones. Use it. Use it because it works. But I'm with Jerry. The conventional way to educate our children is not the only option now. And we have and these other options are looking real pleasant. So
And you're gonna homeschool your child all the way up to the 12th grade level.
I want to I said to myself though, by that time, if he wanted to go to a private, situation or whatever the case may be, that I deemed and his father deemed had a great curriculum or whatever the case may be, maybe. But I asked him often, hey, how do you feel about going to, the big school? That's what we call it.
Mm.
He's like, no, mommy, I like learning with you. I'm like, well, don't you want to go with the kids and, be around your friends and stuff. He said, but yeah, I got to get my schoolwork done. And even now, sometimes we have to leave out. Like I said to you, Jihad, I help take care of my mom. So our school is on the go.
Okay.
And his thing is, okay, mommy, so I have to do my math, right? And then I have to do my science, and then I have to do my civics, and then I have to, okay, so what do I do after that? He's already processing certain things in his mind. He's 9, so he can stay home by himself. Part of that is teaching him responsibility. Now, when I'm gone, you have to do this, this, this. That's responsibility, time management, and just, overall being responsible for yourself. You know what I mean? So it's accountability.
Moving forward, what can we see in the future of Mrs. La as far as homeschooling?
Miss La moving forward is going to be the creator of, an alternative educational approach. I'm working on that now. I have some great researchers helping me out with possibly, the curriculum that I want to include into the program. So look for that. Look for me to be tutoring. Look for me to do more packets. I pulled these out because some of the websites that we use, I know you probably can't see this, but
I can see it. Well, not
it's
yeah, I can see it.
yeah, it's really simple. It's education.com, Jumpstart, K5 Learning, CK12. You have iExcel. You can go on these websites. There is a membership, but it's nothing compared to the investment that you're going to make when they, study and become better students. This is what we do. So I want to implement packets for parents, books on different, things that we deal with in our high poverty, low income, communities. There's gems here, and I want to shine a light on that.
All right, that's what's up. Jerry, what can we see in the future for BSA?
Well, we're looking to franchise our model. So with that, we have 6 logos copywritten in DC. So we have the Black Student Advocate, Latinx Student Advocate, Hispanic Student Advocate, LBGTIA plus Student Advocate, Native American Student Advocate, and All Student Advocate. And as we build out the franchisees, at that point, now we also have field reporters. At that point, then we want to then launch our Roku channel. So now, as we give a national report and talk about what's going on across the country in education, our advocates will actually have real knowledge as to what's going on in their region with the education system. Because
That's
the things
absolutely amazing.
that you're dealing with in New York is not a one-off; it's the same system. Really, there are only 3 school systems in the United States. That's New York, state of New York, state of Texas, and state of
Texas.
California. Because once they go ahead and say what they're going to do with the school books, this pretty much what McGaw Hill is going to print,
Mm-hmm.
and
Cool.
everybody else going to fall in line.
Oh, and
Got one.
look for me to liaise with Jerry and his organization because I am so excited. I'm so excited.
And we're gonna play our part in Georgia as well too. Believe that. Got another question before we get out of here. As far as homeschooling is concerned, where do the children stand academically when testing, especially for college? La, I think that's for you.
Testing. Well, we do
And
assessments.
Jerry, you can hit on it too as well. I'm sorry about that, Jerry.
I do assessments, and then um, it depends on the state. Some states don't require you to do standardized testing or whatever the case may be, but I do test my son, and I keep testing him in a vigorous way, like no short ends, straight to the point, real raw education tests. I go online, I look at formats or whatever the case may be, and that keeps them sharp, and it keeps me to understand where they are academically. Are they progressing? Are they improving? Where do they need improvement or whatever the case may be? And as far as college, I think that part of the question that you just asked, as far as education is concerned, college is going to be that too. They're going to have to change their model as far as having a high school diploma with the turnabout with children being homeschooled or home instructed. So that
That's a
aspect
good
of
point.
testing, yeah, that aspect of testing is going to change. But I think that if you just continue to do assessments and quiz the children, they'll be ready for college.
Jerry, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. So the thing is, you got to understand, charter schools, home schools, and things outside the traditional are held to a higher standard than public schools. They will put things on other people that and objectives they never could meet. Think about that. You have some districts in California, 13% of their student body is not college and career ready. Excuse me, are only college career ready. So 87% of students, after going to a school and being in the system for 12 years, they can only stop. And when they graduate today on the 5th, tomorrow on the 6th, they can just go to Amazon and get a job.
Yeah.
After we paid all this money. So education has very, very little to do with educating the student, but everything with saving the white woman.
Wow. Wow.
Just think about this.
I wish I had a bomb sound effect.
What other industry can do the work they do and continue to get guaranteed funding? Untethered. So what you have to understand is when you start talking about college, education is just like the prison industrial complex. And that's my sign here. EIC, which is education industrial complex, versus PIC. So white women make money during the day because our students' butts are in the seat, and then white men make money at night because our brothers, our women, our butts are in the bed.
Wow.
That's the preschool to prison pipeline.
Wow. Jerry, you
That's
just dropped
the
a major
hustle.
bomb. You just dropped the bomb, Jerry.
That's the hustle. So what we need to understand is that if we are homeschooling, you giving your kid the best reference because you're walking through the community and you're teaching them things throughout the day, not just when they're building. When you're in a school site, most neighborhood schools are the biggest bullies in the area. Why? Because they're saying black students can't learn and black parents don't care.
That's a fact.
That's a definite fact.
That's a fact.
And that's something that definitely has to change. Well, today's show, man, has been quite eye-opening, very informative. And like I tell people all the time, this is the place where we bring it sexy back to the everyday hardworking man and women who impact your life within close proximity, rising above this madness, which is called black culture. And people always ask all the time, what do you mean by black culture? Black culture is simply what people do. And what do the majority of our people do every day? Is it constructive? Is it non-constructive? How are we compassionate to one another? How do we love one another? How do we inform one another? And how do we begin to teach each other on a major level? I hope you all got a lot of jewels out of the show today. This is one of the shows that we're probably going to come back and visit quite a few times. As always, I promise to always bring you all great content with great guests and great speakers. Now, today's show is so critical. If you are a parent of a student, I hope you really sucked in the information today, and I'm hoping that you had your pen and paper. As you see, Brother Jerry, he has a blackstudentadvocate.com. You can reach out to him. Miss La, do you have a website or a plug that you want me to plug the people with before we get out of here?
You can hit me on Instagram, _master of academics.
All right. I'm going to try to get that up there real quick. But as always, man, I'm going to let my guests have the last say so before we get out of here. So, Miss La, I'm going to let you go first with your last parting words.
Jihad, I appreciate you so much for this opportunity to be on your show today. I would love to come back as many times as you would invite me. Jerry, awesome content. I can't wait to liaise with you and partner with you and just give my time in any way, shape, form, or fashion that I can. Parents, it's okay to teach your children differently. Tap into your kids. Listen to
La, I think she freezing up a little bit.
Oh wow, I seen everybody freeze for a second. But yeah, just get in tune with your children. Know and understand that, there's always a different way to educate your children and your students, and just have fun with it.
Brother Jerry?
Two things. So our phone number is 833-925-1957. So we came up with the 1957 because of Little Rock 9. Because the black student has always needed an advocate to get an education. And something else we distribute wristbands. So the wristbands on one side is our website, the other side is the phone number. So our parents go to the website, they can order it or just call me. But what happens is now a parent knows or a student knows when they're wearing this wristband and a teacher or another student asks them, what is that? Oh, this is just a wristband I'm wearing in case someone messed with me. I got someone to call. So we stopped the preschool to prison pipeline by advocating for Black students and Black employees against K through 12 school districts. But what I tell when I do Black College Expos or when I'm in the community doing events, I just tell the kids real simple. I'm the organization with that big head uncle. In case somebody mess with you, give us a call.
And on that note, thank you for joining in today. Thank you, too.
Thank you.